Hello, everybody. Wow, this has been a journey this morning. Me and Bee have been here struggling with technology. I'm so grateful we're going to be talking about stress because that was really stressful. So I'm just going to let you guys know that this morning we are talking with Bee Nikula. She's the founder and CEO of Grounded in Health. She's a holistic health coach and lifestyle coach. And man, does she have an incredible story. I had a whole thing I was going to read about Bee, and honestly, I just need these tips on stress, like right now, Bee. Like, give it to me. Welcome to the crazy show.
I am so honored to be here. And yeah, we got to have a chuckle right before we started. And I said, well, good thing we're talking about stress today because technology is definitely one of them.
Tell me about it.
Oh, yeah, I am super happy to be here and get to talk about this. I joke with a lot of loved ones in my life that I am a recovering stress addict, and in today's busy world and all of these things that can be thrown at us, technology glitches or many more things, it can be really hard to close up that stress cycle because it's not what it was hundreds of years ago, where you may just be walking in the woods and it's, maybe a wild animal comes and, you do your runaway and you get that spike and then it goes away and then you ease back into your day. Now we have so much being thrown at us at the same time that we really need to support ourselves and nourish ourselves to find the ways to break free from the very biggest thing, the stress cycle. So
I love that you started with that. I truly believe that we live in an environment where we used to just have that automatic response, but now we need to evolve to a point where we're adapting and understanding the closure of our stress cycles, because we are covered in emotional stress all the time. It's not just that saber-toothed tiger, that wild boar chasing us. It's like, what did my boss say? What does that person think of me? All of the things. And
and
you
compile
are.
in what all of us have gone through. It's now, you think about even just the news, right? When a new headline comes out or an alert comes out, or so not even like the commute to work, the news alerts, the seeing something that maybe being caught up in the social media where you can get a stress response just by seeing what someone else is doing. And all of these start playing in, and they start storing in our body if we aren't bringing in practices or rituals to get them out and to release them, and so that they're not sitting within us, which then can typically lead to the last thing we all want to see, burnout or forms of illnesses that can create in the body because we haven't addressed them. And so this is very passionate for me. I always get really emotional about this because I was that person. I was that person that stuffed everything down and, got caught up in the rat race of like, I can do everything. I can do everything at once. I can screw sleep. Who needs that? Like, let me get everything done and help everybody else and forget about myself. And once you hit that state of extreme burnout and fatigue, your body can't regulate properly anymore. Your automatic your nervous system, it's completely depleted, which then your immune system becomes depleted, and your body doesn't get to operate at this magical level that it gets to be at when we are bringing in that support. And with that, we are, would I like to say it's easy? No, it's not. It's never easy, but it's really important for us to start getting clear on, what do we want and how do we want to show up for ourselves so that we can be that full, vibrant, authentic person that we are meant to be here. And when we're riddled with stress and the stress cycle, it's really hard to be that person. It's really hard.
So first of all, you got me super emotional too, but because I, know you, not Bee and I don't know each other on like a super personal level, but we have been acquaintances for a long time. And I know a portion of your story, and I think you're gonna at least touch on that today.
Mhm.
But what I just wanted to add from an outsider's perspective is it breaks my heart to hear you say I was that person and that you got to that point of burnout, because to me, you guys, Bee lived at a ski resort. She is married to a world famous skier. She has the lifestyle and like the presence. You see her and you're like, what a beautiful, calm person who just has everything together. And she's just so, I mean, she's just so chill. She's like the epitome of has the life. And so to hear you say I was that person is like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, there was someone in there struggling that was putting on a facade for a really long time because I was really used to putting other people first and not myself. And it was a lot easier to put on the mask
So you're a
that,
woman.
yeah, right. We are natural human givers, right? So, yeah, it was really easy to wear a mask, and it was really scary to take the mask off. And yeah, I'll share.
Tell us what happened.
Yeah, it was really interesting because, I thought I was ticking off all the life boxes. I got the corporate job, I got the beautiful partner in life, I lived in ski resorts where most people dream of living. And I took a promotion, check, started traveling more, check, moved down here to the West Kootenays in the bigger mountains, which we always wanted, check, bought my first home, check, like, thinking life is like, okay, but what was always missing in that is I was in a constant state of fight or flight. I never had a relaxed parasympathetic nervous system. I was vibrating. I did not know how to tune into my body. And when my body was telling me something, I didn't listen. I squashed it. And I got the lovely news of, I'm so sorry, it's breast cancer at 30 years old in December of 2018. And when something like that happens, you don't get to push it down anymore. It is literally your body coming up and saying, knock, 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 listen to me. Listen to me. I am trying to tell you something and you weren't listening. And I I would love to say that in that moment I was shocked, but I wasn't. I sat there in
Mm.
that chair so calm. I didn't even cry at first. I just like nodded my head and looked at my partner who was very emotional, and I just was like, "Okay." And it was really weird. I had this outer body experience, but internally in my gut and in my intuition, I knew. I knew that I had neglected what my body was asking me for so long, that part
Wow.
of why this came into my life is because I wasn't listening.
And
And
that's so crazy and so intense that that happens to you, that happened to you. And I think as women, when we go into menopause, it's another portion where your body starts telling you, where have
mm,
you neglected yourself? And I have been lucky to not have any illnesses like that, but I can feel it in perimenopause. My body's like, I'm not taking this anymore. Here are
yep,
the things. And it's telling us, and it's that time to pause
yeah,
naturally in our life to look at those things. And sorry, I just
mm,
wanted to interject with that because it
mm,
just sounds so much like what so many of my clients say to me in a totally different way. And
absolutely though. And the
watching you
pause.
go through this, Bee, has been insanely inspiring. Like,
Thank you.
wow, you're
Yeah.
so strong.
Yeah, thank you. And I really appreciate you saying that. It's the pause. It's actually allowing the space and taking the time to tune into your body and listen
Mhm.
and go, okay, like, what is my heart telling me? What is my gut telling me? Where is that feeling in my body? Because it's going to tell you what you need. And it can be uncomfortable when those feelings and those emotions come up, but that's where the work gets to come in. And that's where, you get to tap into that part of you that wants that and is seeking for, to be heard. right? It's just like that little girl in all inside of us that typically wants to be heard. Your body wants to be heard in the exact same capacity. And I think there's always a lot of factors that can obviously play into a misalignment in the body, like something like cancer. But for me, on my personal experience and my journey, I do fully agree for myself that my stress and my inability to cope with my stress cycle played a really, really big part of where I got to where I was at such a young age, because I was constantly living in fight or flight and I didn't know how to get out of it. So I am really passionate about the stress cycle and bringing in practices and rituals. I could honestly probably talk about different modalities and ways to do this for the whole entire day. but
I love
but
that. What's really serendipitous about this, Bee, I have to tell you, but
yeah.
I just finished filming a portion of my menopause program. Like, it's all written, but there's a couple videos that I still had to put in there. And I just finished filming one that I added in as an extra about completing the stress cycle, like about what you're talking about right now. I didn't even know that this was a part of what you did. I mean, I know you're out there helping women and that
Yeah.
but I didn't know that we had the same passion. So
Yeah.
I'm loving this.
Because it's so important, no matter where someone is at in their life, if it is like the perimenopause, moving through menopause, or even prior, like, there's stress never goes away. I would look at us with our technology glitches. I'm like, I had all my breath work done coming into here. I was like, I'm super centered. And then we're both like, wow, what's happening?
And it wasn't us, it was me, and my crystal didn't work and breath work didn't work. And
but so, it doesn't ever disappear, but no matter
no.
where we are at in the cycle of our life, we still need to bring in the practices that nourish us. And again, just as we evolve through the stages of our lives, our practices evolve and change.
Mhm.
And that's the beautiful part of it. What I had started using 3-4 years ago is not the same to what I use now, so
Yeah.
because you get to kind of find what's working for you, and because things change so much, you get to pivot and go, okay, that was serving me then, but I'm going to try and play around with this a little more because this feels right now. And that's the really
Evolution, right?
beautiful part of, like, wherever you're at life, you get to pick up. There's, you know, for some people, things don't resonate. And so that's why I'm always like, it's about what works for you, and just ensuring that you recognize when that cycle is being broken. And that's kind of like the aha moment for each person. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. And you're talking about, so when you talk about like something that you use as a modality for dealing with stress and then it changing, you're talking about, and I'm assuming, so let me just ask you a couple things here. I'm assuming
Yeah.
that you're talking about like a daily ritual or like thing that you're doing that makes you feel good, but then do you also, that makes you feel like the stress has been released, but then do you also feel, or would you agree with what my belief is that also each stress that you have can need a different modality in itself. So even if you're like, say, I'm into meditating right now, and that's my thing,
Yeah.
I need to do it every day, it's my space. But then I have a fight with someone and we're screaming at each other, which actually doesn't happen in my life very often now. But let's say that's happening. Then out in the wild, you would see a wild animal that would like either run or they would fight. And then after they would like shake, right? And they would
Yes.
like get rid of that. So sometimes you might have one stressful thing that needs you to like dance or shake or run, but you might have some other stressful thing that needs you to like sleep or take a
Yeah.
bath or like,
Absolutely.
so yeah.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. And I love that you said the shake. There's like this really beautiful scientific story about this one duck. It's like, think of the duck, because when they have like a quarrel with, a mate, when they're in the wild, you always see lots of times, like after they have a quarrel, they do this like really big shake and they just let it go. And you're like, oh, right. And it is like, is it, you know, sometimes, let's say if we're in the work environment and we're having a stressor, it's not like we can just scream out loud because everyone be like, there's a woman screaming in her office right now. But so it is, no matter where you're at, right? There's always a different type of modality, and I think having ritual and morning routines really do set yourself up for the day ahead, especially if you are someone who does tend to have more of a stressful environment that you tend to be in on a regular day-to-day basis. You know, I can share my ritual. For example, I do get up quite early. I do have a meditation practice, and I typically, right after that, I do a quick word purge if anything has been kind of staying busy in my mind. And then for me, it's I get outside right away and go for a walk or go for a hike and just like, okay, calm and center. And then that kind of brings me into my day. But there's really beautiful practices that I agree with, like the dancing and the shaking, and we can talk into that on my 3 tips there. But it's and for some people it is a bath, or it's a laughter breakout, or a cry breakout, or it is calling a friend and talking to them. Like, we all have different ways of dealing, but it's important to know that there are those different ways of dealing. It's not a one size fits all. So even when I share some of my tips here, you'll find what resonates for you, and you can bring in even the help of practitioners, right? I believe in a lot of modalities have been really beneficial for me, Chinese medicine and acupuncture and body work and energy clearing work. And, again, Kylie and I laugh. We both had like some of our rocks and crystals near us. And I was like, these aren't helping right now. So there's always really good things that we can do. And if you don't mind, maybe I'll start into my tips, because then we'll kind of navigate how we can look at different modalities. And for me, when we are in like the stress cycle per se, that is, like we've been talking, the moment at which our bodies learn that after facing a danger that we're safe. So the big part of all of this is that we want to get in the safe mode and outside of that full cycle. So we want the completion of the circle of stress. So by removing the stressors, it doesn't necessarily by removing the stressors, it does not mean that the stress cycle is complete. This is why we want to incorporate these rituals and those modalities into our daily routine that will support you to help you feel better overall. So first and foremost, what we need to get clear on is identifying and naming our stressors. Number one. And a great way that we can do that in identifying our stressors is to either keep a journal or a note in your phone, whatever works for you in that level. I'm a pen to paper gal, so that's what I go with. And, I would say look at about a week in general, like a standard week, obviously not the week you're on holidays, the week that is your regular day-to-day life. And then, so this way you can start to see if there is a pattern or a common thread of when specific stressors are coming into your day-to-day life. And this allows, maybe that eye-opening or aha moment for you to find where, especially, there may be multiple stressors happening all at once. So when your body truly can't get out of it. So you'll want to note down when it's happening, how were you feeling when it happened, what caused that stress to take place, how you reacted. Did you have an outburst? Did you freak out? Did you cry? Those are all some of my characteristics. And is in that moment, was there anything that brought you relief, right? And this way you can really just start having a clear idea. And then once you've started to see maybe a pattern or can name the stressors in your life, you can move on to step number 2, which is try to find ways to avoid your common stressors. Now, obviously, I need to be transparent. We can't just shut down and avoid all scenarios of life because that's just not possible.
Oh, am I going to work today? Yep.
Right? It's like, no, I'm just gonna close my door now, and I'm just gonna, obviously there's moments in life where I think we need mental health breaks like that, but we can't avoid all scenarios. So because we can't avoid all the scenarios that cause our stress levels to spike, because that's obviously not realistic, like we just said, wherever it is possible, we want to start changing our environment so that it is more supportive and nourishing for us. So you can start with making changes in situations that you can and that feel easy, right? Because when you're finding ways to avoid common stressors, you're not trying to place more stress on yourself
Mhm.
for getting them out, right? So, an example I could use is, limit time spent with individuals who elevate your stress response. And, if, like we talked about, maybe if watching the news is something that causes you levels of stress to increase, be more mindful of the times that you're choosing to take that information in, right? I've had to talk about this with many people in my life, if not clients, if not family members, avoid scrolling your phones, if that's how you do your news source, or your television on the channels, hands down prior to bedtime. I really think if we are in that space where we're dealing with a stressful environment a lot of time, we want to eliminate when we're bringing in that stressful information. So avoid that scrolling or television watching that can elevate that before we go to bed at, I would say, personally, 2 hours before bed, but I know that's tough
And
when
I
we
do
have,
one. I do
yeah,
one. Because
one
you
one is beautiful. My personal is two, but hey, if I said I was perfect, that would be an absolute lie.
that
So sometimes,
and
sometimes
you
it
know that
fluctuates.
that is important. We know that's important. We know that's
Yeah,
important for blue light, but
yeah,
also because whatever we think about, and you might have been about to say this, but whatever
yeah.
we think about before we go to bed has 6 to 8 hours or however long you're sleeping to process inside of you. And that's where everything gets compartmentalized in your, so it needs to be really positive when you go to bed, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the less stimulation, the better when we're winding down. Like the less, when it comes to like that constant feed of information. Like I read this incredible stat. It was like, well, I shouldn't say it's a stat, but this theory, like our phones, for example, average, hold 64 gigabytes of data or whatever now. It's like extremely high number comparatively what they used to. And this woman was talking about how on average, a human doubles that amount of intake of information a day right now because of having our accessibility through our phones, our computers, where most of us are online, and incredibly because of the how the last few years have gone and because so much has been put online, we are at stimulation overload. So that time before bed is absolutely critical when we are trying to reduce our stress levels in our body, because yeah, we really want to reduce that stimulation from technology and information that is coming to us. You can have stimulation in other ways, winding down for bed, not that way. Um, so
Ones that
with
produce, let's say, oxytocin instead of
yeah,
cortisol, right?
yeah,
I'm
and
on the same
reduce
page.
our stress levels. and and on top of, with that kind of tip there with the winding down, something that can be really beneficial for kind of eliminating or avoiding, I should say, not eliminating, because that's not always possible, is just, try to bring that more organization into your life and your schedule and get clear on, if there's anything that can change, is there any way that you can move things around? So maybe if, let's say, that commute to work is stressful for some people, is there a way in your timeline that you could go 10-15 minutes earlier so that it doesn't feel so rushed or so forced, or that kind of like, oh frick, I got to get there. And best of all, I think is my favorite is to set the boundaries. And because again, we said the women, we're great at being human givers and saying yes and giving a lot of ourselves, is very clear that we need to set the boundaries and say no when possible. And to not let ourselves be convinced to accept more responsibility than we're able to handle. That was my guilty. That was a big one for me. I still call myself like I'm in recovery of that. And because no one knows the challenges you are facing better than yourself. And so you need to truly honor what your body is telling you in those moments and know that you do not have to do it all, because we are all superhumans in some capacity, but that doesn't mean we give every piece of us out and say yes, because a lot of times when we're doing that, I'm sure you've probably, come across it, but it's like, if it's not a full yes and it doesn't feel like a full yes in your body, again, listen to that, because it's maybe telling you that you need to say no, right? So
Yeah. And when you say
that
yes to something, you're saying no to something else because we only have so much energy
exactly. And time, right? And
and time.
so once you find the ways to avoid those common stressors, right? You want to ensure you have those practices and those modalities in place to start support you. So number 3, the big one, is to bring in practices to help calm your nervous system and boost your attitude. And because we all experience stress in different ways, it makes sense that there are different ways to relax and relieve stress. And that way, again, like we had been talking about, because there are different ways that stress shows up, whether it's emotional, relationship, work, life, technology, doctor visits, anything, right? Some ways of dealing with stress can be unhealthy, right? So it's important to to take that pause, take that break, and go, okay, am I doing things that are a healthy way of breaking the stress cycle? And what is a better way to prevent being overwhelmed by stress and creating that me time for yourself? And my 3 favorite ways to support my body right now dealing with stress are moving my body, hands down. And with that, the big part with moving your body, and I really encourage everyone to incorporate this into their practices, because stress is a physical form that happens in your body. Physical activity can be the biggest way to end the stress cycle, and that
Mhm.
can be anything. I'm not saying you have to go to the gym for an hour. I'm saying go outside for a walk for 10 minutes. Go, if a run's your thing, go for a run, dance, shake the body, go for a swim. I don't, whatever feels supportive to you in that moment. That is your first line of attack to approach and get rid of that potential burnout, and release the endorphins that help reduce or eliminate stress and boost your mood. And this does allow any of those emotions that you may have been holding on to move through your body and get out of your body. So I do typically recommend to my clients, aiming for a minimum of 20 minutes and up to 60 minutes a day, to just kind of get yourself moving through anything that might be in your kind of storing in your body and releasing that. And I'll always say this, because Kylie knows I'm also like a really big outdoor lover, because nature is also a form of therapy. If you can do
Yeah.
your moving of your body outside at any point, or, in nature, that's like double whammy in my mind. And number 2 would be connect back to your breath, is a really smart practice if you can.
Oh, I am so excited to hear what 3 is gonna be because I just read what a doctor recommends the top 3 things that you need to do during menopause, and those are the first 2. So I'm really excited to hear what your 3rd is.
Oh,
So carry on with the breath thing because I'm on the
oh,
edge of my
okay. I
seat
didn't
here.
know this. Okay, this is fun. So for me, number 2, connect with your breath, right? So those deep, slow breaths down regulate the stress response, especially when the exhalation is long and slow and goes all the way to the end of the breath. So that's when your belly contracts, right? So a simple practice, and for any of you busy entrepreneurs or anyone that just has a busy day-to-day life, I had to put alarms in my phone
To
to do
breathe.
breath practices, because I would forget to breathe. But so this takes under 2 minutes, and you'll just do a simple practical exercise to breathe in slow for the count of 5. So hold that breath for 5, and then exhale slow to the count of 10. Pause at that end, count to 5, and do that 3 times. And in under 2 minutes, you will have reduced and calmed that parasympathetic nervous system to allow you to become more focused and to give you that boost. And my number 3, so I
Just wait,
wonder if
before you go to number 3, before you go to number 3.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful, and it's something that's overrated is the breath, because
Mhm.
it's our own tool that we
Yeah.
always have, and we say it. If you listen for the next week, listen to what people say. They're like, "Oh, I'm taking a breather. I need to breathe. Just take a breath. She needs some air. Give her space." We say it, but
Mhm.
we're not taught to use it, and it is
Nope.
a tool that our body has, and what you're talking about is like connecting your mind and your body and your soul, and like through the energy of the earth, or like those are the ways that we can connect, and we forget to connect through our body. Like it's this thing that we can do so much with. Move, release the stress, breathe, release the stress. What's the third one?
My favorite right now for number 3, crying.
Crying, another bodily thing.
Bodily, like, it's always about the release. So
The
what can I
soul's way of
before I go into
cleansing.
it, what was number 3
No,
with the
no,
doctor?
go. Okay, I'll tell
Okay.
you. No, you go
Okay.
first.
Okay. So crying. I, you know, we can all kind of think of the motto like big girls don't cry, or, we don't want to show those emotions. And I was one of those people, right? I didn't cry. I held it in. I didn't want people to think that I was quote unquote weak or
Yep.
unable to handle what was being thrown my way. And through a lot of practices and working with really incredible individuals and healers through my time, crying has become such a powerful tool for me. And it actually is one of our body's mechanisms to release stress.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's important to not be embarrassed by our tears, that, and we shouldn't stop them from coming out. There's this quote in a book. It's about burnout that I just absolutely loved. And it said, let me just pull it. I have to make sure I get it right.
Is it Emily
Anyone who
Nagoski?
says crying doesn't solve anything doesn't know the difference between dealing with the stress and dealing with the situation that causes the stress.
Emily Nagoski.
Yes. Yes. You beat me before I could say
No,
it.
it's she has, and I think she's the same one that's going to say what I'm going to say right now too. And she has written a couple books too that
Yep.
burnout. She wrote Come As You Are. She
Yep.
wrote, and between those two books, the other thing is orgasm.
Yeah.
And so what we're talking about is we're talking about bodily functions that we're embarrassed of, that are our innate ability to, I mean, water. We cry
Yep.
water. We go in water, we feel cleansed. We sweat out water. It helps us.
Yep.
Orgasm. Women have a clitoris. The only function of it is pleasure. And with that, it can help you reduce. We're talking about menopause now for a second. It can help you sleep better, feel younger, get rid of headaches. It gives you the oxytocin, which is the fight against cortisol, which is the stress reducer. It releases endorphins. It actually physically distributes hormones in your body to where they're supposed to go. But how many people exercise 20 minutes a day? Orgasm 7 times a week.
Yeah.
Like, who's doing these things? And
Yeah.
if we were all doing these things and we weren't embarrassed to cry and pleasure ourselves and run and to breathe, like, hold on, I'm just going to take 2 minutes to breathe right now. People would be like, weirdo, that person's breathing. Oh, that thing that we do when we first come to Earth and the last thing
Yeah.
we do before we leave. Like,
And
what?
our true life force is breath. So why are we not allowing space for that? It's like,
So basically, just be normal and use your body the way it was given to you.
yeah. Yeah. And isn't it's so comical to me, even when you say that, right? Because we've just lost touch with our basic human instincts and practices because we've gotten so caught up in the busyness of life. And again, the stressors that take place. And we forget to do the simple things of living and breathing and releasing in very natural ways. Like, our bodies are meant to move, our bodies are meant to orgasm, our bodies are meant to cry, they're meant to breathe, they're meant to eat great nourishing foods and drink water. But it's harder said than done because we get caught up in our mind and in that cycle that it's never going to stop. And it's just really important to be gentle and compassionate towards ourselves and know that this is a practice. This
I love
isn't.
you.
Yeah.
I love you. I love that you added that, because as you're saying that, I'm like, we need to remember that it's also not our fault. We
No.
are taught that when we're stressed, we should have a glass of wine because we can buy the wine. The wine makes money. Money is a part of society, and it's, you know, poisoning us at the same time.
Yeah.
And we're taught to do all of the opposite. And so we do need to have that grace and compassion the same way we have compassion for others, for ourselves, to know that I'm doing the best that I can, and I'm making the best choices I can.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
how can I do a little bit better if I'm stressed out?
Well, and it is, and thank you for saying that, because it is, we are very much taught that it's like you go to the pub after work, and I was very much wrapped into that culture for a really, really long time. And
Or ice cream, or
yeah, right. It's like you reward yourself for, and why can't that reward be you nurturing yourself, not grabbing for the indulgent or the whatever
something
it is, you know, I'm not saying,
extrinsic.
yeah, like I'm not saying those aren't allowed in your life, but
Yeah.
you know, check in and see what you can do first, because your
Mhm.
body's telling you something that it's looking for. And lots of times it is just, it's asking for something actually quite simple. We're just too
That you
scared to
already
go
have.
there. Yeah.
And they say, oh, the answers are within you. Like literally, they're within you. It's
Yeah.
cool to have ice cream. It's cool to have wine,
Yeah.
but know that you could breathe,
Yeah.
cry, orgasm, sweat. Like these are all things inside of you. You don't need anything outside of you.
No.
I mean, we need food, but
Yeah, that's a whole other topic. But no,
whole other
I'm really
conversation.
grateful that, and I know I thought about putting orgasm in there, but I was like, I'll let Kylie is the expert on that one over me. I'm really good at crying these days, so I can put that in there, you know. And I can even share before we kind of start wrapping up, right? For example, I had a stressful situation come through for me earlier this week, and instead of, and because of what we're saying, you know, it was an emotional, unexpected stressor. I did not see it coming, and you know, the old me would have definitely used more food for comfort, or, you know, kind of got angry and placed blame somewhere else. And instead, I just thought, okay, take a minute. How's this feeling? And instantly, it was like, you could feel it coming up and coming out. And I just let it out. And I had a good cry for, give or take, probably 10 to 15 minutes. And after that really good cry and that release, because that's absolutely what it was coming out of my body.
Mhm.
And almost most of us understand this. Like when we go through something like that, there's always this like really big sigh. And when I let out my final sigh, when I had just like been done with it, there was just this sense of relief to my body. And let me be clear, it may not have solved the situation that brought on that stress, but in that moment, I completed that stress cycle and I can
With
move
just
on to
tears
what's
and
next.
breath.
Yep.
That's so beautiful and amazing and easy
Yeah.
and free.
It is free. It
It's
felt great.
free.
It felt really good. You know, I didn't, you know, I probably would have alarmed somebody if they had walked in my house at that moment, but I made sure I had the space and the time to do it, right? I think that's important. I need to obviously name that, is if you're going to have an emotional release like that, make sure you feel that you're in a comfortable, safe space to do
Yeah.
that. That is a really important part to the crying piece, is making sure you're in a safe, comfortable space so that you can let that happen and
Yeah.
allow that to move through you, because, you know, it's, society has a hard time seeing individuals cry. So if that's
Yeah.
uncomfortable for
You know,
you.
it might be normal. It might be normal for people like us to call each other and be like, so I was wondering if you want to go for a cry hike or
Yeah.
a mountaintop scream today? Because
Oh my
it's what I
gosh.
need.
That is also another one that's really great, is screaming, but I know we're running out of time.
Yes, we are out. We're 10 minutes over. I'm sorry. We got a couple
Yeah.
comments here. Someone, I can't see their names, but they're like, I so needed this live today. Thank you, ladies. And someone said, so good. Stress almost takes my true self away. And
Oh,
I don't even think it's an almost. And it's such a, like Bee said today, it is such a normal thing. And we do have those tools inside of us that are free that we can use. But I am going to say, just like all of these women of wisdom Wednesdays that we do, the women that I've been bringing in do have practices, and B does have a practice. And sometimes we have to invest in ourselves because you can't always see what you can't see. And I truly believe that life coaches are a huge piece that's missing from our mental health factor in
Mm.
our world. And actually, for those of you that don't know, B actually worked in the nursing world before she started doing that. Right? Is that right?
I
Yes.
worked in the back
Okay.
end of healthcare for 10 years, so
Yes. And so sometimes we do just need someone that has an outside perspective to help us see what we can't see, because I say this all the time. I truly believe that every single human being is a freaking miracle, because we had a 1 in 400 trillion chance of being alive as a human being. And so we are miracles, and we have all the answers and we have all the tools. But that doesn't mean we have the ability to see it ourselves. And
Yep.
we need other people to help us see stuff. And that is where community comes in,
Mm,
professionals come in. And
yes.
I'm grateful for what you do for the women in the world. And we need you.
Thank you. We
Thank
need
you.
you. We need everyone to step into that part of themselves that they feel is their gift and their
Yeah.
purpose. And, for me, my diagnosis was my wake-up call, and it was my moment to get clear on what I wanted, and everything that I had learned through that experience, and then, brought me to wanting to go back to school to just get more clear on wanting to help support people, because it exactly what you said. I wouldn't be where I am today without my own coaches, my own healers,
Mhm.
my own mentors. Like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them showing up in their authentic self so that I could do that for myself. And
Yeah.
I just have so much gratitude for the community of women that I have gotten to get to know and grow with because of this experience. And I love helping women, and I love getting to help people reclaim back what is theirs and their health. The one thing we don't ever get to take back. And I really encourage and support and nourish a relationship to help people ditch that toxic relationship with stress or that constant state of burnout, so that they can get their health back on track and they
Yeah.
can get that back into their own hands, because it it is yours. It is yours. It's not the doctor that you're going to see. It's not the X, Y, or Z. It's yours. And so you get to choose how that goes for you. And it's so important for me to help support women to get there so that they can feel that confidence and make the changes in their life that support them with really true, healthy, sustainable habits that aren't just the one size fits all, or this fixes
Yeah.
you in 21 days. Like, no, this is about longevity, and this is about how you can show up fully for yourself by building and incorporating really healthy, sustainable habits, so that it's not short term. This is for the long term. And that's
They're
been
ones that
such
you
a game
want to
changer.
have. They're
Yeah.
things you want to do, right?
Yeah. And
Well,
that's
B, you're
realistic. Like,
exactly.
it's
Well,
like it's
and
realistic.
nothing is sustainable if you don't have a desire to
Yeah.
want to be. You're such a beautiful human being, and thank you so much for everything. Thanks for coming here, but thank you
Yeah.
for what you do for the world.
Thank you.
If you guys are watching this, not live, just comment replay on this, because it's always nice to see how many people have watched it. It will be in the group, and I will put Bee's link in here. So if you feel like you need a little bee in your life, then click on her link or reach out to her. And yeah, thanks for sharing your stress tips today, Bee.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
absolutely. Yeah. And if anyone has questions, like, I'll happily answer anything in the comments. I'll take a peek through that today and tomorrow
perfect.
and keep an eye out for sure.
Perfect. So I'm gonna push end on this, but then me and you will still be here for a sec. So okay.
Awesome.
So bye everybody on the group.
Bye.